Suzanne, please come to the front. You are needed on this panel.
I think you're mistaken for you a lot.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, JR.
Good morning. All right, welcome to the 2017 Dice Tower Con Media Panel. Thank you guys for being here. This is a flashing sign that says insert applause, so just go ahead and... It's all right, guys, it's early. We'll get to it, okay? Every time I make a dramatic pause, we'll just stop and clap. It'll be great. Well done, guys, well done. For those of you who don't already know, we're taking note cards for questions. I won't get to all of them, but if you have a pressing question you want to ask, bring me your note card, just kind of walk up here and do it, and we'll try to get it out there. So, we're going to introduce everybody. Please go on down the line and tell us who you are and what you do. Yep.
Are you starting or?
No. Hi, I'm JR. Okay, we're good.
Do we just take these or what we...
Yeah, don't leave with them, but...
Oh, turn it.
Hello,
There you go.
I'm Ambie. I'm on a podcast called Board Game Blitz. We are a 30-minute podcast. There's me, Cassidy, and Crystal. We're co-hosts of a 30-minute board game podcast. We're on the Dice Tower Network. I also do instructional videos, and I have a segment on Throat Punch Lunch. That's all under Board Game Blitz. Outside of that, I also do board game song parodies, usually to Disney songs, and that's on a different YouTube channel that I have called Ambie Rona. And yeah, I like a lot of types of board games. I'm into 18xx games recently, so like heavier games, but I like kids games and thematic games and cooperative games and all types of games.
All right, my name is Lance Myxter. Shush. I've been doing reviews for about a decade now.
God, you're old.
Yeah, I'm really old. I realized that a little
Looks
while
so
ago.
good looking. Just very, very good looking.
I'm more commonly known as the Undead Viking, which is a weird 30-second decision that somehow became my name in the hobby. I don't know. I play pretty much any kind of game, but geez, I don't know. I do a podcast. I actually work in the industry now. I work for Taste of Minstrel Games. I was lucky enough to get a job working for a publisher now, but I still maintain my channel. We host a weekly show that 7 people watch, so we're pretty proud of it. But other than that, yeah, I still do reviews. I still go to these conventions, stuff like that. I do a lot. I mostly do videos for Kickstarter programs now, trying to help people get their stuff published. But yeah, that's me. I don't know. I was up a little late last night. Cool. I'll just turn it over to Suzanne.
Oh, do I have to hold it?
I don't know.
Okay. Hello. Hi. My name is Suzanne Shldn. I contribute to the Dice Towers show on YouTube, Board Game Breakfast. Primarily, I do a weekly segment on crowdfunding board games. And I also cover board game app implementations, although as has been pointed out to me multiple times at this convention, it's been a while since I've done a segment on apps, but that's partly because I'm doing a top 50 board games app series, and I'm recording that right now, so that's taking up a little bit of my time. I also live stream on Fridays with a group of other board game women personalities, Margaret Cottrell, Nicole Hoy, and Stephanie Straw on our Twitch channel for Meeples Included, and we just every Friday we have a topic that we talk about. We have a cocktail as we talk and catch up, and it's basically just for friends that are talking about board games and making bad jokes on
It's really
Twitch.
good. It's really good to go.
And Lance, I want to take this opportunity to just personally thank you because I cover all these crowdfunding games.
Yes.
A lot of times the pages aren't that good or informative, but I can, when they have an Undead Viking preview, I can watch your video and get the information I need. So thank you.
So I'm Mandy. I'm also known as the board gaming Pinna Girl. I don't know if this gave it away. And I'm with To Die For Games. We have a group of us. So there's myself, Tracy Tillman, Stéphane Lebeau, Michael Corneau, and I know I'm missing a few, Christiane and Halden. I think I'm missing one more, but we have a group that does written reviews as well as video reviews. Oh, and Carol. I knew I missed somebody. I also contribute to the Dice Tower, so most people know me from our lunchtime segment, which we do lunchtime games. I'm also on Throat Punch Lunch. We have a new segment called Confessions of a Board Game Reviewer, so to check out our deepest secrets there. We also do live streaming on Twitch, soon to come to YouTube as well. I like to play all types of games. People think I like lunchtime games, but I actually like the really heavy ones, you know, like Euro, worker placement. I love that. So that's it. Did I miss anything? Aww. I'm Canadian.
Hello, I'm Brian, and this here is Patrick, and together we're the Just Got Played show. We review games that are coming to Kickstarter for the independent game designers and publishers, and
what he said, he did a very good job. We also have a growing staff of people that are going to be joining the show, our co-hosts that we will mention them later if anyone wants to ask about it, but we don't deserve to be on this panel. I believe there was a mistake. Somehow they've chosen to add us as a problem. We don't deserve to be up here with any of these people, especially my hero, the Undead Viking.
Did we do it? Okay. Lance says, can we get to a question, please? All right. I've picked out a few from the audience, and I have a few of my own. The first one we're going to go here is from the audience. This is, what was your inspiration to make board game media? We'll start here. Let's go down the line. Go ahead.
So our podcast started about a year ago, but a couple of years ago, we were actually on a thread on Reddit. There was a thread about what is missing from board game podcasts. And some of the things were there's not enough women-led board game podcasts, and there's not enough short podcasts because most of them are an hour or longer. So actually, on that thread on Reddit, me, Crystal, and Cassidy, who are the co-hosts of Board Game Blitz, we all commented. We didn't know each other. We all commented, oh, we could be on a podcast. We don't want to start one. And so we met each other through Reddit and started talking on Facebook because we all were like, okay, we could do this. And we agreed that like a 30-minute podcast would be cool. And alongside that, I was also thinking there aren't enough short instructional videos either. Like there's some really good instructional videos by Watch It Played, and some other people now are starting that too. But there weren't any that were like really short, and people like me, sometimes I get bored by longer videos, and so and I think there are other people like that too. But yeah, so we came up with the name Board Game Blitz and just trying to make like shorter content for people.
I make longer videos.
I was gonna say the exact same thing. I'm like,
Sorry.
okay.
So 6 hours of your viewing pleasure every Wednesday night.
All right, so like a decade ago, I was 35 years old, and I'm lucky enough, and I've said this a lot of times, so I apologize, I'm repeating myself a lot, but not here, but overall. I am lucky enough to have the same gaming group I've had since I was like 10. It's the same guys I've grown up with my entire life. But as life happens, you eventually, one by one, you actually have your free time gobbled up by family and life and kids and things like that. But I maintained my freedom until 35, until I met my beautiful wife, and we got married, and I had a kid, and I had a situation where basically, all of a sudden you don't have time, and we played role-playing games all the time. Every weekend we played, and it was like 10-hour-long sessions of role-playing games. But all of a sudden, nobody had time anymore. So we played board games a little bit, but we weren't really hardcore into board games. And so, as a lark, I read up on a little game called Arkham Horror. I thought that looked kind of cool. I picked up a copy at my local store, and then I got my friends over. This will only take like 2 hours, and like 6 hours later, we get done reading the rules, and I was like, well, this is crazy. I can't figure this out. And so there's got to be something online I can look at this, and I found Board Game Geek. And then kind of one thing led to another as I just, you start, working your way through that website, it's so easy to use and just so wonderful. But no, I mean, I always make fun of that, but I mean, you do suddenly, like, you grok it, right, and you figure it out. And then it was weird, I've always been a good writer, and so I started writing reviews, and just for fun, because I would want to do something about board games. I was well into the rabbit hole at that point, and I wanted to be able to do something with it, and that was I was going to do it. And then eventually, it was actually conversations with both Tom and Scott Nicholson, because they were like the only two people that were doing videos, and they just said, you should give it a try. You seem to be comfortable with what you're doing. So I just started doing it, and then I did another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And I don't know, it was very organic. It wasn't like I posted and had this moment like, I'm going to be a video reviewer. It was just, I got 3 hours to do nothing on this Saturday, so why don't I do something? That was all. And then, yeah, a couple thousand videos, and 10 years later.
Well, I've told this story before, so apologies if you've heard it, because it hasn't changed, and I don't have any good jokes to go with it. But a number of years ago, 4 years ago, I've been playing board games since '94, which is a little bit longer than some and a lot shorter than others. But I've been playing board games for 20 plus years now. And one of the things I realized a number of years ago as I was consuming board game content was that I didn't feel like I was reflected in the content I was seeing. And as an avid board gamer, as an avid hobbyist, I was concerned about that, to be honest. And so I reached out to Tom Bassel, who you may know, and I said, hey, Tom, you have the Base Board Gaming Network, and you're doing all this great content. Why don't you have more women or people of color on your channel? And Tom wrote back in his very Tom way and was very kind, and he says, you know what, I care about this too, but I can't go out and make anybody do anything, and as a white guy standing here, I can't do it myself, so why don't you do something about it? And I said, oh yeah, there is that whole be the change you want to see thing. And so I thought about it, and I realized that I wasn't seeing a lot of board game app content out there, and as a mother to two who works full time, I don't get to go out to board game nights as much as I want to, and I was doing a lot of solo gaming on apps, so I thought, well, I can try to cover board game app content and contribute that to the community, and also try to, in spite of how difficult it was for me to put my face on camera, because I'm very uncomfortable on camera, especially if you watch my earlier content, it's unwatchable. It's so awful and awkward. It's awful. I felt it was important that a woman and a person of color was showing up on the Dice Tower and showing that there are women and there are people of color who love board games and are passionate about it. And I could be a very small slice of representation to get that out there. And that is honestly was my primary motivation for starting to make board game content, and it remains a primary motivation for me today to continue to produce board game content. So that's how I got into it.
So I actually echo a lot of your sentiment, and that is part of the reason. And, I wanted people that be represented, someone who looks like me, and not just my skin color, but I wear crazy clothes, I wear fun hair. It's okay to do that and still board game. I also wanted to represent Canadians. So I know if people laugh when I say that. But I don't feel like there are a lot of us. So we wanted to try something a little bit different. I take the more conversational approach to reviews. So I also, I'm singing my national anthem, it's distracting. Do you know it in French? En français? Okay. Bonus points if you did.
Oh, why did it make you stop singing? Keep singing.
Okay, you can do it on a low level while I'm talking. It's very proud of me. So I also wanted to take a conversational approach to reviews. So I'm very open about it. So I do suffer from ADHD and anxiety. So it's sometimes really hard for me to sit still, and watch something. So you have to make it a little entertaining. And I'm sure there are lots of people who are in that boat. And I also do a lot of volunteer work with mental health awareness. So that's something that we try and incorporate or think about when we're doing reviews. So these are some of the things that kind of said, you know what, this needs to happen. And we're constantly tweaking it. I think recently Carol, my friend Carol and I, who's of Asian descent and a woman, and we have a conversational approach to reviews, and it's been taken really well, and we've had really good feedback. So just those little points that I wanted to bring forward, but mainly for the reason that Suzanne talked about as well. So I hope I'm not scaring anyone though with my crazy hair and clothes, but I think it's going well.
Yeah.
So.
I experienced like some personal loss a few years ago, and I wanted to do something that I really, really enjoyed. So I remembered as a kid that I loved board gaming, and I designed role-playing games. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do all this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? I really love that, so I'm going to get back into it. So I designed this board game, and it went nowhere. Like, it got no traction whatsoever. So I thought, there's got to be other people like me out there that need traction for their new ideas. And this is several years ago. So there are a lot of people now that do podcasting and video podcasting and help people with Kickstarters. But back then there really weren't. There was not as many. There was a few. So I started doing videos. A game pub opened up in our local area, and it's called the Cloak and Blaster here in Orlando, and we film live from the Cloak and Blaster almost every single Tuesday now. And things slowly started to turn around, and I met some amazing people in this industry that just embraced you. Like, you people in this industry are the most creative, fun, and endearing people that you'll ever meet in any industry, and I've been around a little bit. Ken Shannon at the first convention I went to walked up to me and just started talking to me, and I didn't know anything or anybody, and just really, really made me feel comfortable. There's a ton of people like that. Robert Burke is another one. Eric Little, these are all people that I just met at the very first convention, and all of you are like these people. All of you are so embracing, and it makes you want to do more for the community. It makes you want to do as much as you can for anybody that's trying to gain traction in the community and try to grow the community. So that's why I did it and how I got started.
Kind of just to mirror what Patrick said, we're both game designers. We each have our own games, and trying to break into the Kickstarter market, a couple of years ago, it was just tough to get validation for one and exposure for two, and then we realized we're obviously not the only ones in the same boat. So Patrick one day just said, "Hey, I got a camera. Why don't we, just start doing reviews to help everyone else in our same situation out?" And 2 years later, here we are. So.
All right, thanks guys. We're gonna go to, it's very nice. There's just like 1/6 of that was for each of you. This one is actually for me. Each of you has been making content for quite some time now, and I want to know, how long did it take you to find your voice as a content creator, to get comfortable on camera, to figure out what it was you wanted to talk about, to hone in on the kind of content you wanted to create and really find something cohesive that made sense for you?
I'm not sure if I've found it yet. I'm still not comfortable on camera. Everything I do on camera is completely scripted, except for this. This is live, I guess. But all of my videos, all my segments for a bunch of lunch is scripted, and I'm reading off a thing. And my instructional videos are scripted, and I pre-record the sound. So it's a lot of editing. But for the podcast, I'm not sure how long it took. But I think we're pretty comfortable now after a year. So maybe it was about a year, but we still write notes beforehand, but the conversation part of our podcast is a lot better now. It was also difficult because we didn't know each other, and we only met in March of this year, and we started our podcast in May of last year. So we met in person for the first time in March at MeepleCon in Vegas. So we were Skyping before without having met each other. So it was kind of hard to get a conversation going with complete strangers, and we were really lucky that we have good chemistry and we're able to talk well. But yeah, I think in our last few recording sessions we've done pretty well. So it probably took about a year.
I'm a bit of an oddball because I figured out how I wanted to do what I did a long time ago, and I've never really changed. I've often told myself that if I like actually learned how to like do good video work, or like a lot of the things that like cool snazzy animations and stuff. I would actually like maybe have a better presentation or get more followers, but I was always just like, whatever. So I've always said I'm very lucky that I started when I did, because like there really was only about half a dozen of us total that were really making media. So I mean, if I came out and did it now, I would just be another drop in the hat. So I am thankful for that. But I don't know. The biggest thing anybody ever gave me guff about at the very beginning was they said my videos were really long, and they were. And they still are, like, because I knew like Tom would do 10, 11, 12-minute videos, Scott Nicholson would do like 20, 25-minute videos, and my videos would be like 50 minutes long. And it was because I always wanted to, like, I always kind of considered like telling stories and like just kind of just, tying in the board game with my life and things I did and things that made me think about it. And I would get emails from people saying, oh, your videos are too long, and I would say, well, thankfully there's other people that make shorter videos, so just go watch those. And I tried to be very kind about it. I was like, but I never really want to change that. So I guess I've always, Scott Nicholson gave me a really good piece of advice right away at the beginning. He said, treat the camera like it's your best friend you haven't seen in a year, who just sat down and you're catching them up on everything that you've been going on in your life for like whatever, and speak conversationally with the camera. And so that's what I've always tried to do. And that's and when YouTube, because I started way back in the day when like YouTube, like you had to have like a certain number of views or a certain number of subscribers before they'd allow you to make a video that was longer than 10 minutes. Which strangely, I know we have to be short, sorry. But like Scott Nicholson, that jerk, and I don't really mean that because he's one of the kindest people in the entire world. But Scott Nicholson, he had a .edu email, so YouTube would give educators all the time they wanted to make videos. So he had a leg up on everybody. But I would have to use like Vimeo. Remember Vimeo? It still exists if you go there. But I would have to use Vimeo and like pay them $5 a month for the right to have longer videos on their channel. I mean, that was just me. I always just said, I'm just going to do this however I want to. And then if I get people to watch it and follow it, then great. I guess if we ever have somebody that says, it's like, oh, I want to make content, I always say, do it. It's fun. But don't go into it saying, how do I need to make content so like people will like it? I always said, do the content you want to do so you like it. Otherwise, you're going to burn out and you're not going to enjoy what you're doing. And that's when people quit. They quit doing podcasts, they quit doing videos, they quit doing reviews, is when they're trying to make something that they don't actually enjoy. So find the stuff you like, do it, and when you're happy and you're excited about it and you're energetic and you're making content on a regular basis because you're enjoying doing it, that's when your audience will find you, and then the connection with the audience will be so much better than if you're trying to like make the content that you think the audience wants. So anyway, sorry I gave advice.
No. You're just one question ahead. So
Oh, okay.
We'll just skip you for the next question.
Awesome.
That was really good advice, Lance. Thank you.
It was very nice.
Appreciate that. 18 months. I can't look at anything I made in the first 18 months that I made content. They are truly awful. And, I think my desire to make content overwhelmed my absolute misery doing it and my lack of awareness or knowledge on how to do it. And I just cobbled together whatever I could. I used Windows Movie Maker that comes free on my 8-year-old laptop. I don't. I love it. The only reason why I quit doing Windows Movie Maker is when I wanted to put a picture-in-picture, and it didn't allow me to do that. That's literally the only reason why I changed away from Windows Movie Maker. But 18 months, anything before that is horrible. Anything after that is okay. I really personally don't consume any of the content I create because it's really weird to look at yourself on camera and watch yourself talking, and my voice sounds weird and I look funny, and it's like, why do I have a booger up there, and why did I do that, and all this other stuff. So it took me a long time, and I think it's pretty apparent that I'm still not really comfortable doing it. It's not my natural state. So I don't know if anybody, I'm listening to y'all to get tips on how I can get more comfortable doing it, because I'm not there yet. But so sorry, that was super unhelpful, Suzanne. Here you go, man. Be helpful.
Okay, thanks. So I think for us, it's just now that I'm starting to really enjoy what we're doing, and I'm happy with what we're doing. It was a huge learning curve for me. So for anybody who doesn't know me, I was actually a teacher by trade. So now I work for the federal government, which has absolutely nothing to do with this. But
The federal government of Canada.
Canadian federal government. There's a difference apparently.
That's like 65% of the American.
Probably. And I work for national defense, though. I know, I see that.
Wait, was that a veiled threat? No, it was.
Build a wall.
So I think it's just now that we're starting to get comfortable, and I'm also starting to get comfortable with the software. So I'm lucky that I have a friend who works in this business, and he kind of said, here you go. Here's Adobe Premiere. You have to figure it out. So I've never watched so many YouTube videos in my life about how to use After Effects, which I'm still struggling with, and Premiere, but I have people on my team who are really good with it. After Effects is awesome. So if you have a chance to try that, it is really good. But I would say just at this point now, and it's funny, the advice you gave is exactly that. You know, a lot of people kind of gear toward, you know, what they think that people want, what other people are doing, and they're trying to better everybody else. Just do what you want to do and enjoy it. And I totally agree with that, and it makes a lot of sense. So,
Well, here's the deal, and I don't want to jump on what
No,
Patrick's
please.
answer is. Just to pin on that advice, I see a lot of people, and I don't say this is a bad idea, but I mean I see a lot of people, they see, you know, what Tom has done or whatever. You know, there's like the big three in my opinion. There's Rodney, there's Richard, and there's Tom, and those are like the big three, and they've made a career out of making content. They've made a career, and more power to them. They're amazing, right? No, I have not. I'm lucky.
For Lance.
Anyway, so there's the big three, right? And they are a great inspiration for anybody that watches it, and they can see, because all three of them do an amazing job, and they deserve all the credit in the world for what they do. But I get disheartened because I see people reach out to me or they email me and they say, well, why haven't I gotten to whatever level they think they should get to? And I've always said, because there's no like magic bean that you can plant in your backyard to create it. I think there's a weird expectation level where you have to kind of just spin your wheels for a while. While you find you do the work, but I mean, and make content, but also just to find your voice, like we're talking about right now, and find whatever niche you're going to fill, and you're going to, and if you go into it saying, well, in 1 year I need to have 10,000 subscribers, well, then you're setting yourself, and maybe you will, maybe you'll make amazing stuff, and you'll get there, but you're setting yourself up to be unhappy, you know, if you don't achieve whatever X goal you think you need to be. And I don't know, it's just, I would rather have 100 subscribers that actually interact with me and I have a connection with them, than have 20,000 that, you know, I never hear a word from. You know, it's better to have that it's better to have that family of people that really appreciate what you're doing than, you know, a bunch of anonymous people. There.
no, it's absolutely exactly what you said. And as for what you were saying about your previous videos, go back and watch my first ones. They are awful. I had no backdrop, and it was bad. So I think we all do that, but you need to go through that process in order to get better, right? So you're not the only one. I'm not saying.
Our first ones are terrible. By first ones, I mean like the ones we did yesterday. No, it took probably, I would say, a good 6 months before it was something that I can even go back and look at now, and I'm still not comfortable doing it. But I'm a lot braver than I am smart, and I carefully ladle it in a little bit of alcohol. So would you say 6 months probably before you felt like you could watch it again? I mean, they're bad.
I thought by the third video we were doing pretty well. So.
You didn't watch it. He doesn't watch any of our stuff, so he has no idea. But yeah, we're braver than we are smart. But the most important thing is what Lance said is, if you're not having fun doing it, don't do it, because it's not. There's nothing worth it at all. Not if it's not fun.
Was that just like a double answer?
I think it was a
Yeah,
effort.
we tag team.
All right, this is a modified audience question. Just want to go through this one quickly. We got a lot of questions here.
Start with Patrick this time.
We'll do that. What one piece of equipment or program could you absolutely not live without?
Well, the camera. You've got to have a camera. You've got to have a decent camera. Actually, I don't think there's not one. You need lighting. I mean, we've had so many problems in our first videos with lighting and audio. Like, audio is a nightmare filming in a bar. Filming in a bar filled with people, audio is a nightmare. So I can't say. I have no idea. For one, you have to have a camera, I guess.
And the knowledge to sometimes turn your mic equipment on, which we've
there,
done
been there.
an entire live recording and forgot to turn them, and I forgot to turn the microphone on. So the knowledge along with that audio equipment to operate it.
I would say for me it would be, it's all important, but when you're starting out, you can make things on the cheap, but audio is huge, and people will let you know if your audio is bad. And I think that was the biggest lesson I learned. Audio needs to be on point. So I think that would be the big one.
Just to go off of that, anybody who's seen my recording setup, and I mean, you can easily see it in the quality of my content, but I have the jankiest, cheapest, grassroots setup. I use like cardboard boxes to like lift up my laptop, and that's what I record off of, is my laptop camera. The built-in camera in my laptop is what every piece of content I've ever made has been recorded on. But to mirror what Mandy said, if you're doing video or audio content, either one, if you're doing written content, it doesn't matter. But the two pieces, it doesn't matter what kind of camera you have, personally in my opinion, but audio, you buy for $60, buy a blue snowball microphone off of Amazon, and find the right place in your location to have good lighting. If you have good lighting, your video, no matter what camera you're using, will instantly look better, and you will get hammered on audio 1,000,000 times before anybody will ever say anything about your video quality.
All right. Good talk. All right, again, we're going to start down at that end. As a content creator, trying to build an audience for yourself and trying to get people to know what you do and make relationships, how do you spend your time at conventions, and what do you think is a good tip for somebody who is new to this?
Mingling, actually doing the reviews, playing the games, and filming on location. Just working the room, meeting a bunch of people, asking them if they have a game coming up and they need a review.
For us, it's just be nice to people that work really hard on their game, regardless of how well it came out. They worked really, really hard on it. So just give them credit for at least trying. You know, so many people want to do something but can't. So just be nice to people, and your audience will come, I think.
I'm a planner. So before I go to a con, I have a spreadsheet of all the people I need to visit and talk to. I'm on social media all the time, probably about the same amount as Suzanne. So I try and touch base with people there. Half the time it doesn't happen because you get so overwhelmed and busy. I actually don't get to play as many games as I would like, but I try and touch on the important ones, or people that I want to maintain network connections with and things like that. So I work a lot. And when I say work, stuff for the channel.
I have never been contacted by Mandy for any convention ever. I feel like I'm not on a spreadsheet somewhere.
No, you actually are, but you're always so busy. I know. I come by and I'm like, I don't want to interrupt, and the whole Canadian thing. So I'm just kind of okay. We'll talk later. So that's it. I'm a planner, so I do things before, and then as I get there, I try and touch base with as many people as I can. And I love meeting people who watch the content, because a lot of people I find don't generally leave comments for us, and I'm like, okay, well maybe people don't like our stuff, or they're not watching. They're like, no, we're just quiet viewers. So it's really nice to get their feedback and what they like, and maybe things that we can improve on. So that's me.
If you're trying to be a content creator at a convention, I think that's a very specific opportunity. From a building an audience point of view, I would actually suggest that a convention is not the best place to do that. Where you can really do at a convention like this, where there are vendors like this, is use that opportunity to meet those people, and along with what Patrick is saying, build those relationships. Don't use that as an opportunity to ask for a review copy. Go to the publisher and say, hey, here's my card. I just reviewed your other game, this, check it out. What publishers really love, they love seeing the content you've already done on their content. They want to know that you're already interested in the games that they've produced, and showing them a piece of content that you've done for one of their games that already exists, or a game that could be in that kind of category of games, so they know, oh, hey, you just reviewed this amazing Wits and Wagers game, and now you're asking me for a copy of Lignum. Like, what's going on here? So, I mean, so even if you haven't reviewed one of their games specifically, but something kind of in the family of games that they're producing, build that relationship. Have cards. Just go to Vistaprint, get super cheap cards with your contact information, and give those to publishers at conventions when you have that opportunity. And then along what Patrick's saying, just then when you're playing games with other people, have those cards, give them to people that you play with and that you meet, and hopefully they'll keep them and look at them later.
Can I tell a quick story?
I can't stop you.
Okay, well, yeah, you can. Just get tackled. No, okay, so I'd been doing reviews for about 5 years, and I'd never been to a major convention ever in my life. There's a couple of local ones that I'd go to, and they were fun and all, but I'd never been to Gen Con ever, and which is weird, because I hadn't, but Joel, Eddie, and I, we became friends because of reviews and us talking on the phone and stuff. We got a room at Gen Con. We were like, hey, let's go, this is going to be awesome. So we went, and I went to Gen Con for the first time ever, and it was really staggering how many people would walk up and just say, hey, and they talk to me. I mean, I'm lucky that I guess I look the way that I do, because obviously maybe I stand out, which is not true actually, because I do remember when I went to a first convention, my wife said it's the only place in the world I can say, if I told somebody, go get my husband, they say, what does he look like? And they say, well, he's a big guy with long hair and a beard. And they'd say, which one? So which was kind of weird. It was weird to see that. But anyway, regardless, it was like people would come up and talk to me and say, oh, I really appreciate the videos you do and stuff, and which was really cool. And I kind of, after the first couple ones, I said, I should really make sure I take the time to really talk to these people and just thank them for it. So, and I really did. And admittedly, I got kind of a big head about it. I was like, oh, it's kind of a big deal here, but when I got home, my wife made sure that, take the garbage out. Okay, yeah, sure. But no, but the big thing is that when you go out and you meet people, especially if if you're talking to a publisher at a booth, and you want them to know that you're interested. And you know what? I mean, I'm going to disagree with Suzanne just a little bit. I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for somebody for like, hey, I'm really excited about this game. I think it's going to be awesome. I would love to do a review for it. Don't walk up and say, hey, can you give me a free game? Show them how excited you are about this game. Talk about a previous game that they published that you really, really liked. But there's no shame at all in just saying, I'd really love to do a review of this. Is there a way that I can get a copy from it? And I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I feel bad about asking. No, I mean, because publishers realize that. They realize that, it's actually pretty cheap advertising, honestly. Because if you try to put your ad on like Board Game Geek, I mean, you're talking about hundreds if not thousands of dollars. If you're trying to like get an ad in a magazine, that's a ton of money. I mean, all those things. But a game, take a Taste of Mystery game like Yokohama, it's like, okay, yeah, you could buy that for $60 or whatever the hell that price is. But it probably costs like us, I'm not going to go to the exact numbers, but it's a fraction of that, and it's a serious fraction of that. And so if I hand YouTube reviewer Bob this thing, and he goes off and he makes a video about it, and 500 people see it over the lifetime of that video, and if just think about that, if 10 of those 500 people say that game looks really cool, I'm going to go buy it. That's paid for itself over and over and over for that box that I gave that person. And plus, you've handed, as a publisher, you've handed that thing to somebody, and they're out. I mean, and the glee, they look, oh my gosh, it's a free game, And I still get that way when I get a box in the mail. I was like, what is this? Oh, cool, I got something, And you get that, and then you've established that relationship with that reviewer. And all of a sudden now there's that connection, and you have a relationship, and you can get more games to them that they can do reviews, and I think that if you are a media content person, go to big conventions. I mean, if you can go, because that's the best way for people to know that you exist. And like I said, show enthusiasm, and don't fake it, obviously. I mean, just don't, but just show enthusiasm for, because publishers love to hear about people talk about how great their games are. And it's just, you're human, right? You like to hear positive things of what you do, and people that are feeling positive like to do positive things for other people. But if you're going into an agenda of like, I want to get a bunch of free stuff, then people are going to realize that, and you should probably take a step back from that.
Do you find that, I find different cons I take a different approach. Like I found Gen Con, my first one, very overwhelming. Do you know what I mean?
Well, Gen Con is a zoo, right? I mean, like what the email went out yesterday that they've completely sold out of badges, which is crazy.
I didn't know they could do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I was always the impression Gen Con, you walk up, they just wanted to take your money. So that's a crazy thing to think about, that Gen Con is sold out. But you know, it's obviously, when you're at a convention like this, there's a lot more time, right? You know, just like you can, and this isn't a convention where you're looking to sell stuff. This is a convention where you're looking to connect with the crowd. For the bigger ones, and like Gen Con, or even like, you know, Origins, and BGG Con to a certain extent. But BGG Con is actually a really good one too, to like connect with people, because it is so laid back. And because it's the last convention of the year, pretty much, and everybody's just kind of like, it's like, you can kind of feel it with publishers, where they're just like, oh man, I made it through another year, because they know they're going to have like 3-4 months of no travel, not really having to worry about anything before the next year kind of gears up. So if you can get to a good convention, I mean, PGG Con's probably one of the best, if not the best, conventions to go to, if you really want to just meet with publishers and talk with them.
This is like my first convention where I'm going as a media person, kind of. Like I have a t-shirt now. So I'm not really sure what to do yet, but I'll take notes, I guess.
This, you're doing it. It's great.
Yeah, this is the one thing that's changed, but I'm still pretty much doing the same thing I normally do at conventions, which is play a bunch of games. But I guess the difference is some people recognize me, which is really weird and exciting.
Hello.
Yeah. So I'm an introvert though, so it's kind of hard for me to like go talk to people. And when people recognize me, like actually someone recognized me at BGG Con last year, and that was the first person who recognized me, and I was just like speechless, because I think I was fangirling over having a fan more than he was fanboying over me. And so yeah, I definitely need to work on interacting with fans more. But yes, this is definitely something I need to work on.
Thank you. All right, guys, second to last question. We'll just start right here and move down. I think that creating content is one of, if not the most consistent path to getting work or other opportunities in our industry. It certainly seems for the last 5 years or so, a lot of people have been able to make things, build an audience, find a voice, and then turn that into doing some other kind of work. For those of you who've had the chance to do that, how has creating content led to other opportunities here?
This is just my free time, so I haven't gotten anywhere else yet.
Wearing your TMG shirt.
Okay, so obviously I work for a publisher. I work for Tasty Mystical Games, and I got the job basically because at that first Gen Con that I ever went to, I was heading back to my room with Joel, and Joel said, "Oh, I'm supposed to meet up with Seth Jaffe, who is one of the founders of TMG. I'm supposed to meet up with Seth Jaffe and play some new game called Hanabi or something, because he had gotten like some import copy of it." And I was like, "All right, fine, we'll go over." And I had interacted with Michael Mendez, the CEO, like by email, but he was there, and he asked me to sit down and play some prototypes with him that he had gotten. And so basically it was one of those things where I was really tired, but I was like, all right, fine. And so like a half hour turned into an hour, and turned into 2, and turned into 3, and turned into 4. And I ended up just sitting there, we stopped playing games, and Michael and I just kind of shared our lives with each other, and we formed a really good friendship. And it was just one thing that like, it was something we talked on the phone every once in a while, we exchanged emails, we just discussed things. He'd call me up for advice about certain things, and I did the same for him. And then it was just one of those weird things where I just jokingly said to him, when are you going to give me a job? And he said, I had no idea you wanted one. And I was like, yeah. And so then it just kind of organically got created. Eventually it was like a if thing. And then one day he called me and he's like, well, now it's a win. And he's like, about a little over a year ago, he said, I'd like to hire you to work for me to do all these things. And I was like, all right, cool. And I quit my job that I've had for 16 years, which was a little scary, but it's pretty amazing. I'll just say, I kind of, it's every day I wake up and I pinch myself because I get to spend more time with my family. I get to work out of the house. I get to combine my passion with my day-to-day job. And the coolest thing, I guess, in my opinion, was when he sent me my contract to sign. It just said, whatever, how much money I was going to make, millions, by the way. It's, but my job title was the official Viking pillager of Tasty Minstrel Games. So that is, if I ever go and apply, that's what I'll have to say. I was the official Viking pillager for this company for 2 years. So yeah, it's definitely given me, and the other cool thing, honestly, about creating media is the friends you make. Patrick mentioned that how accepting everybody is. I see Ken and Robert back there. It's just like two guys that are awesome that I met because of the fact that I do this. And I've forged lifelong, deep, and I'm going to say loving relationships with people that have really just make me happy and just make my life so much more amazing than it was before. And it's, I don't know, and it's just I don't think I would ever, it's so cool. The people that I've met, it makes me happy being part of this little club, right? And I'm not talking about all of us. I'm talking about everybody who plays board games. They're always just so happy to sit down at a table with complete strangers, and it's like, hey, let's play this fantastic new game, and you're learning it, and all of a sudden, and you play that, and you have this wonderful memory and this experience, and yeah, it's like I'm getting kind of emotional. It's just it's so cool what we do, and it's even cooler when you can kind of take that love and share it with other people. The president of the company of TMG, Daniel, is one of the nicest guys in the world, and he says every single interaction I have with anybody at a convention, I try to make sure that when they walk away from me, they're smiling, because then I know that I've done my job. He doesn't care if he sold them a game or not. He just wants them to be smiling when they walk away, and that's the kind of people you meet, and so it's pretty amazing.
For those of you who don't know, I recently accepted a position with Restoration Games.
What?
Which I am on a team with JR. So, and it's funny because they announced it, and they gave me a really cool title. I think that's, I guess, a thing in board games. No, I'm not that. It's not that cool. But
It's so good.
My title is Master of Fireworks at Restoration of Games, which I think is pretty rockin'. But because they gave me a title, because they announced it, and I think it made it sound very big deal. My day job, I work in advertising. I work for a marketing agency. I'm a director of project management there. And Restoration, my position with Restoration is part-time, and it's freelance on the side. And I adore it. I love it. This team is amazing. I can't tell you how amazing working with these people like JR is. But that said, I've been working on content for 4 years now. I attend conventions. I think Lance brought up, go to conventions. It's a great chance for you to meet people. Board games is absolutely a very, very, very small industry. Whatever you read in the newspaper about the explosion, the renaissance, the golden age of board games, never lose your perspective on how small, on many levels, board gaming is. And the positive side of that, if you're really interested in the industry, is that it is an industry completely built off of relationships. So unless you have a very specific skill set, like I managed a factory in China for 22 years and that produced books and board games and custom cardboard components, you're not going to be able to hand your resume necessarily to a company and be like, hire me. Similar to Lance, you go to conventions, you meet publishers, you produce content, they see your content, or you just talk to them. Even if you're not making content, you talk to them, you get to know them. A lot of publishers are very active on social media. Engage with them there, and let them get to know you. Highlight your skill sets in an organic way when you have a conversation, like, oh, I do X, Y, Z in my day job, and if you ever need help, I'd love to be able to help you. I love what your company does, and I think I can contribute. I think, like you were saying, like highlight the fact that, oh, you're interested, in helping. Like, they don't know that you're interested until you tell them. So highlighting that you have an interest, highlighting the skills that you can bring to the table, and just letting them get to know who you are as a person, and then, if you're a fit for their team and for what they need, and that all kind of comes together. But it really all does start in forming relationships, getting to know people, because from my exposure to the industry, that's where it all starts. And then you end up on a team with J.R. Honeycutt, in spite of yourself. Love you, J.R.
I'm going to just follow you with puns for the rest of today.
Got it. All right, sorry.
So I guess, I don't know if I'm a little bit of an anomaly, but I have a full-time job that I really enjoy. I work in human resources. So I love working with people. I work in the military. I love it. I think coming in, it's good to have a little bit of a plan. There's my whole planning thing again. But I have been approached by companies to work for them. For me, I love board gaming. Love it. It would have to be an amazing offer for me to give up my job, my full-time job. Do you know what I mean? So even though I'm not getting paid to create content, I'm very happy to continue creating it if people are enjoying it and people are watching it. If I had something offered more on the scale of part-time or freelance, I would consider that. But I actually really do love my day job, and I love board gaming. So for me, keeping both for me, that works. And I know that's not always the goal for everybody. A lot of people are looking for a full-time job, and I think that's great. But I think you should think about that maybe a little bit before you start. Like, what do you actually want to do if you come to that point? So I know a lot of people have been there and genuinely just are confused. They don't know. So something to consider. But everything else, everyone said, for the most part, the points you brought about going to conventions, being prepared, it's really important. So I don't know, is it weird that I want to keep my full-time?
No, I'm the same way.
Yeah, okay. So I
I
wasn't
probably
sure.
would give up my full-time job.
I mean, it's nice, you get a little bit of money to do it, but like I said, I'm more than happy to keep doing it if people are enjoying it and people are watching. So.
For myself, recently, in end of February, I added Just Got Played to my resume, and then and I have a background in electronics as well, and a company called JVC sought me out, so I took a national level job with them in February based on the fact that they saw Just Got Played and they want me to make content for them and that kind of thing. So if you're not in the industry and you do this kind of thing, it can lead to other stuff that may not be in the industry. I left a job that I loved to work for JVC, and I absolutely love it. It's a phenomenal job, and I wouldn't have had the opportunity unless I put myself out there like that.
I don't really have much to add to that. Don't really work in the industry, but I think in terms of just board gaming, it's kind of like the adage that they say: if you want to make a small fortune in board gaming, in the board gaming industry, you just have to first start with a larger fortune. And so, just be aware of that sometimes going forward. But if you want to work in the industry, part of it's got to just be your passion and your love for it, rather than a financial incentive.
All right, thanks, guys. This has been your 2017 Dice Tower Con Media Panel. Oh, I guess, okay. We're getting the final question. Okay, because I'm getting the hook. I'm getting the hook via the text messages everywhere. The final question actually is here from an audience member. This is for Patrick directly. When did you first fall in love with Lance?
I have to say, it probably was when I was going through such a rough time, and then I was like, I really want to get involved in board gaming again. And I looked on YouTube, right? And I found this amazing guy that has this awesome personality that makes you want to love him. He is one of the kindest, well, except for when he's hugging you. He's not gentle when he hugs, but he's one of the kindest, gentlest guys that I have ever met. And if you guys aren't watching him now, turn off my stuff and watch his, because he's fantastic. Love you, Lance. I don't want this to be
You're very kind.
I love you.
Thank you, Kevin.
I love you.
All right, guys, this has been your 2017 Dice Tower Con Media Panel. Thank you so much.